jump into a market that was shady, rickety, unpredictable, and apply these tools, I think it's a couple of things. One, he built his business on an oil field. I mean, essentially FTX was the casino. And the way it made money was it just took a little slice out of every transaction. And in a booming market, the transactions are booming, and so the slices, the sum of those slices gets to be a pretty big number. I mean, a year after he starts it, he's generating $1 billion in revenues a year and $400 million in profits. But the question is like why people came to his exchange. And he had
because there were others.
There were, I mean, dozens of others. His was the first that was really designed for the institutional trader, for the Jane Streets and jump trading and even Goldman Sachs of the world. They're used to trading on professional exchanges with professional technology, and he had a sense of what that was because he'd come out of that world. And he's the first to build an exchange that actually suited them. And so they follow him into the market, and they want places to trade, and this place looks relatively attractive. And there are technical things about the exchange, but it was an insight that these people who I know from Wall Street are coming, and I'm going to build the casino that they want to be in.
It's such a complicated story, but at the heart of it, it seemed to me that what he did wrong, what the government alleges he did wrong, seems pretty simple. In finance, it was kind of a sacred rule that if you have customers' money, you can use it only for very specified purposes and ones that the customer understands.
Yes.
And he took that money, $9 billion of it, and moved it right. Yeah. So at the heart, is this a very simple story of massive misuse of third-party funds, as they call it?
It's easily muddied up and made more complicated than that because of the how and the why of it. But the what of it, everybody agrees. I mean, even his lawyers aren't disputing this, that crypto was unusual in that, unlike, say, on the stock exchange, crypto exchanges served as the custodians. Yeah. So if you owned crypto at FTX, you kept your money at FTX as if it were a bank. And they were meant to keep your crypto in cold storage, like it was just supposed to be there. And customers would have thought that was true. And what was true instead was that money was largely inside of Sam Bankman-Fried's private hedge fund, Alameda Research. So everybody agrees with that. Where it gets complicated is the how and the why and the intent. And this is where it gets a little messy. The bulk of the money gets there, how it gets there, is in the beginning, banks wouldn't open accounts for FTX. Not because FTX was an illegal thing, but because they just didn't want to be associated with crypto. They had opened accounts for Alameda Research because Alameda Research is sort of like tricked them into thinking this wasn't crypto. And so in order to get your fiat currency, your dollars and your yen and your euros onto FTX, you had to send it to an account in Alameda Research, and it just stayed there. Even after later on, FTX gets bank accounts. It's pooled there and never gets moved. What I found, just from the point of view of storytelling, is that if you looked at this thing from not just Sam's point of view, but point of view of the people who work for him, point of view of people outside the firm, that you might come out on with different answers. That like different readers might conclude different things about the intentions of Sam Bankman-Fried. I think some of the readers would lynch him. I think the others would think this guy is just weird enough so that this was maybe more complicated than just pure theft.
Stay with us for a moment. When we come back, I'm going to ask a question that many reviewers have asked. Does Michael Lewis let Sam Bankman-Fried off too easily in this book?
Tonight, Anderson Cooper reports on the brutal attack on kibbutz Nir Oz.
You can tell Emin tried to pry his door open.
And the heartbreaking stories of the survivors and the missing.
I'm devastated.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein.
Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up, I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And the majority of people experience long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Now's the time to ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
When moderate to severe ulcerative colitis takes you off course, put it in check with Rinvoq, a once-daily pill.
When I wanted to see results fast, Rinvoq delivered rapid symptom relief and helped leave bathroom urgency behind. Check.
When UC tried to slow me down, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when UC caused damage, Rinvoq came through by visibly repairing my colon lining. Check. Rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission.
And a chance to visibly repair the colon lining. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC in check and keep it there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Lactate is 100% real milk, just without the lactose. Delicious, too. Just ask my old friend Kevin.
Nothing like enjoying a cold one while watching the game. Who's winning?
We are, my friend. We are.
If you're watching this Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance commercial, there's a good chance that you're alive. And if you're not, well, this may not be of interest to you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Life insurance. I'm going to live forever. Death is what happens to other people. Well, for the sake of argument, let's assume you're wrong, and that someday you won't be watching TV anymore. I know, it's not easy to talk about, so I'll do the talking. If you're 50 plus and alive, you can apply for Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance with guaranteed acceptance, regardless of your health. And since this life insurance is guaranteed, you don't have to get a medical exam. In fact, you don't even have to fill out a health questionnaire. For a free quote, just call 800-700-0150. Then when you stop, if you stop watching TV, your family can use the insurance money to help cover your final expenses or anything else. For a free quote, call today, 800-700-0150. Your kids already inherited your ears, allergies, and questionable singing voice. Don't make them inherit your final expense tab too.
I'm Warren Lieberman at the Pentagon, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Gilt. Visit Gilt.com today for up to 70% off designer brands.
Gilt has the designers that get your heart racing. Add insider prices, new every day. Hurry, they'll be gone in a flash. Designer sales at up to 70% off. Shop Gilt.com today.
And we are back with Michael Lewis, the author of the new book, Going Infinite. So Michael, you've read the reviews, you've heard people say, lots of people think you're very soft on this guy. He's a crookster, he's a fraud, he ran a Ponzi scheme, government claims is one of the biggest frauds in history. You, even in the way you've been responding, you're quite sympathetic to his point of view.
I don't think that's exactly, if you read the book is told there's a structure to this thing. It's not me. I'm using other people to tell this story. What I don't do, and this is intentional, is I don't inject my own judgment. I just felt like I'm writing a story for kind of a juror to read. It wasn't my job to pile on with the moral outrage. It was my job to report what I saw.
Well, but all your books, they report, but they have the Times Review, for example, said, Michael Lewis knows how to tell happy stories. He doesn't know how to tell tragedies, and this is a story of fraud and ripping people off, and
it's so much more than that, though. If you told it as just that, you're missing a lot of the fun of the story and the interest of the story and curiosity of the story. So one of the benefits I had, my privileged position was, I was there before it all went bad. I was there for a year before it all went bad, trying to figure out what this story was. I hadn't written a word, but was thinking through what this was. So I could see the rise as well as the fall. And right from the beginning, I certainly didn't think of this as a Sam Bankman-Fried as a hero story. That was never the thing I was thinking. But I was thinking right from the start the day I meet Sam Bankman-Fried, and the day he starts telling me the story about how 18 months ago he had $0 and now he has $22 billion, and he's kind of been used by it, and the world is organizing itself around this pile of money. I thought of this as social satire. I thought he's like walking social satire, that he is lighting up parts of the world for us to understand because of his peculiar position in the world and his peculiar relationship to the world.
Do you like him as a person?
Oh yeah, I liked him when I met him, and I like him now. But I can tell you that when it all fell apart, it wasn't that shocking to me, because there's a foreshadowing of what's going to happen in this company in 2018 when he opens his hedge fund. It all falls apart. Half the people he's working with think he's a crook, or so radically, catastrophically sloppy and careless that he might as well be a crook, and they quit. And money is lost, and nobody knows where it is. They wind up finding it. But this is all part of this character's, like, as a crime. This crime doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that his wealth and the wealth of all the people who worked at this place was tied up in this actually successful business called FTX. There was this cancer on the side of this business, the legacy business, this hedge fund, which was wholly unnecessary to the main business. Any sane person would have just shut down the hedge fund the minute this thing went boom. And so there's an insanity to this. It's not like, oh, this is Bernie Madoff, he had to do this because it was just a necessary Ponzi scheme. So it was...
Now, he was making $500 million legally. That is
crazy.
It's a crazy.
Forbes magazine, when they decide he's worth $22.5 billion, they're only valuing this business, this actually a successful business. And the character I had come to know when it all implodes is a character. It's a really curious character, and very much a creature of modern Wall Street. He thrives in a state of semi-chaos. Like anything stable, like he would be a horrible accountant. Anything stable, careful, calculated, predictable, he can't function. A total chaos isn't good, because he does have this aptitude for quickly sussing out situations and adapting to change. So figuring out that this is where he excels in these kind of like board game-like situations, he turns everything around him into this, because that's where he's relatively strong. And this was a version of this. He made it all more complicated than it needed to be. If you ask me another question, do I think he's going to jail? Yes, I think he's going to jail. I think it's highly unlikely he doesn't go to jail. I just think the circumstances are it's a shame to ignore how interesting the circumstances are.
Michael Lewis, always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Bianca Golobriga, and thanks to all of you for being part of my program this week. I will see you next week.
Tonight, Anderson Cooper reports on the brutal attack on kibbutz near Oz.
You can tell Gunmen tried to pry this door open.
And the heartbreaking stories of the survivors and the missing.
I'm devastated.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
My late father-in-law lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had AMD. I didn't know it then, but it can progress to GA, an advanced form of the disease. His struggle with vision loss from AMD made me want to help you see warning signs of GA, like straight lines that seem wavy, blurry or missing visual spots that make it hard to see faces, like this one, or trouble with low light that makes driving at night a real challenge. If you've been diagnosed with AMD and notice vision changes, don't wait. GA is irreversible. It's important to catch it early. Talk to your eye doctor about GA and learn more at GAWon'tWait.com.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
At Humana, we believe your health care should evolve with you, and part of that evolution means choosing the right Medicare plan for you. Humana can help. Hi, my name is Sam Davis, and I'm going to tell you about Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans that can provide more coverage than original Medicare, including prescription drug coverage, all wrapped up into one convenient plan. With original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits, but you have to meet a deductible for each, and then you're still responsible for 20% of the cost. Next, let's look at Medicare supplement plans. If a service is covered under Original Medicare, then a Medicare supplement plan pays for some or all of your Medicare deductibles and the 20% co-insurance, but they may have higher monthly premiums and no prescription drug coverage. Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans include medical coverage, plus prescription drug coverage, as well as dental coverage that includes 2 free cleanings a year plus a yearly exam. Vision coverage includes vision exams and a yearly allowance toward eyewear, such as lenses or contacts. And hearing benefits include routine hearing exams and coverage toward hearing aids. You're covered for preventive services like annual mammograms and prostate exams. There's a $0 copay for routine vaccines and telehealth visits. And you get worldwide coverage for emergencies when you travel. You get all of this in one convenient plan. Plus, there's a cap on your out-of-pocket costs. So call or go online today to see if there's a Humana plan in your area, to find out if your doctor is in one of our networks, and to get our free decision guide. There's no obligation, just good information. Humana, a more human way to help you.
Want to see a trick?
Sure.
I can make anything you want appear on that TV.
Superheroes.
Superheroes.
Well, cute animals.
Cute animals.
Wizards.
Wizards. Would you like my trick?
I saw the remote.
With you, keeping the whole family entertained. Search endless content with the magical Ignite TV voice remote. Rogers, with you all the way.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeGlow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
I'm MJ Lee at the White House, and this is CNN.
Israel at war. Is this the start of a ground invasion?
This is our second independence war. We're going to fight for the homeland and we won't withdraw.
Plus, Pence packs it up.
I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today. This is not my time.
He's the first major candidate to end his campaign. Will his shrinking field help someone else emerge as a true Trump alternative? And Mr. Speaker,
The challenge before us is great, but the time for action is now, and I will not let you down.
House Republicans finally pick someone to lead them. But just who is this little-known Louisiana congressman? Inside Politics, the best reporting from inside the corridors of power, starts now.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Politics Sunday. I'm Manu Raju. We begin this morning with the war in Israel. Overnight, the Israeli military intensified airstrikes in Gaza and is expanding its ground incursion into the territory. The IDF is warning civilians in northern Gaza once again to flee south before its campaign escalates even further. Last night, Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu warned his countrymen to prepare for a long conflict.
The war inside the Strip is going to be long, and we're ready for it. This is our second independence war. We're going to fight for the homeland, and we won't withdraw. We're going to fight on the ground, at sea, and in the air. We will destroy our enemy above and below the ground. We're going to fight and win.
Now, the Hamas-controlled Ministry of Health in Gaza says nearly 8,000 have been killed there since the war began. And this morning on CNN State of the Union, President Biden's national security advisor said it's not up to the U.S. to tell Israel how to fight its war, but that it's communicating to the highest levels the importance of protecting civilian lives.
Israel's responsibility under international humanitarian law to distinguish between terrorists and civilians and to protect the lives of innocent people, and that is the overwhelming majority of the people in Gaza.
And now we have some breaking news in northern Israel, so I want to get right to Jim Sciutto near the Israel-Lebanon border. Jim, what are you seeing?
Mano, we are just under 2 miles from the Lebanon border. That's in that direction. We've been stopped on this road. It's the road to Shlomi by the IDF, by Israeli Defense Forces, because there's an exchange of artillery fire. We've heard Israeli artillery fire going towards Lebanon and Hezbollah. Artillery fire, rocket fire, as well as IEDs, we're told. These are IEDs that are dropped by small parachutes, another way that Hezbollah has been able to fire across the border. The concern here now, and the reason they're blocking traffic on this road in both directions, we've been here about a half hour, is because there are reports of infiltrations by ground, attempts by Hezbollah fighters to cross the border from Lebanon into Israeli territory. It's not the first time it happened. In fact, a few days ago, some of those fighters managed to breach the wall here along the border, get in before they were engaged, and then killed by IDF fighters. The reason we're stopped here now, along with all these other folks along the road, is because they fear that has happened again, in addition to the fire we've been seeing. And because this is Israel, you have IDF soldiers who were here at a checkpoint blocking us, and then you have others in some of these cars who, as they were stopped, because many Israelis are serving right now, they're reservists, either they've been activated or not. Many civilians have gotten out of their cars with their weapons, prepared to respond to this if necessary. Manu, gives you a sense of the tension here along the northern border, because the concern since October 7th has been that just as Hamas attacked Israel in the south, that Hezbollah, also backed by Iran, will attack Israel from the north. So far, those attacks have been limited, isolated, a few a day, but I'll tell you right now, this is the most serious we've experienced so far. And just before we came to this section of the road, the reason we left up by the border is because while we were on this border town here, there was an exchange of artillery fire, again, in both directions, with Hezbollah firing and landing shots on Israeli territory. Mano, it gives you a sense of the genuine fear here about the opening of a second front in this war.
Real fears of a growing regional war here. Jim Sciutto on the ground in northern Israel. Jim, please stay safe. Thank you for that report. And I want to turn now to CNN's Sarah Simon, who is in Tel Aviv. Sarah, as we just saw with Jim, things are intensifying in Israel. What can you tell us about Israel's escalating strikes on the other side of their southern border with Gaza?
Look, we heard that there were going to be escalating strikes, and of course, and indeed there have been. There is also a ground war that is going on with Israeli soldiers in Gaza as we speak, but it is not the massive ground war that I think was expected. You are seeing a smaller number of Israeli soldiers. As you know, there are more than 300,000 reservists who have been called up and on the border between Israel and Gaza. So we're seeing, yes, an expanded ground operation. We are seeing the heavy airstrikes that have been going on, and that has been really for days that we have been seeing that. It's just pounding Gaza. They are telling, as you mentioned, the Palestinian civilians to go from the north to the south, but there's also been airstrikes in the south, and so there is a lot of consternation and fear and worry on the ground because so many people have been killed there that have nothing to do with this. They're just caught in the middle of this war between Israel and Hamas. As for here, we have constantly seen rockets come over each and every day. We saw some a few hours ago come over Tel Aviv, which actually, when it is not wartime, and even in past incursions between Israel and Hamas, there have not been this many rockets that have come over Tel Aviv in particular. The reason why they are not hitting generally is because of the Iron Dome, although there were a few that did get through. One in particular hit an apartment building 2 days ago, injuring several people there. But the carnage that is happening in Gaza is unprecedented. We have not seen the likes of this in a very, very long time on it.
Sarah Simon from Tel Aviv. You too, stay safe. Thank you for that report from the ground from Tel Aviv. Now I want to bring in the retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling on all of this. Lieutenant General Hertling is the former commanding general for Europe and the 7th Army. So, General, thank you so much for joining us. You just heard Jim Sciutto in northern Israel, where he saw an exchange of artillery fire over the border with Lebanon. How worried are you that this could spiral out of control and into a broader regional war?
I'm very concerned about it, Manu, and what I'd suggest is it's not a matter of if Hezbollah attacks from the north, it's when. And what they're doing is attempting to time their attacks. You've seen artillery duels over the last couple of weeks between the forces, the Israeli forces in the north and the Hezbollah forces. Now you're starting to see, as Jim so accurately reported, some Hezbollah fighters coming into the area, something that they've done in the past. So now you're seeing them stretch the Israeli forces while they're conducting operations in Gaza. Hezbollah and the other elements of these terror groups want Israel to look in multiple directions, and that's what's happening, and you'll see that increasing as the time goes on.
So Prime Minister Netanyahu says the war has entered a new phase. He said there have been targeted ground raids into Gaza, but still not the full-on invasion we are expecting. So what do you make of the IDF's movements this weekend?
Well, what I suggest, Manu, is from a military perspective, there are three stages of an assault. First, you have the reconnaissance. You try and move in stealthily, find out information, build your targeting packages. Then what you try and do is a reconnaissance in force, where you're still trying to gain information, confirm or deny the intelligence you have, and if you have to, you can fight off the enemy when you become engaged. That's what's happening now, in my view. Then you have the full-throated, deliberate attacks. This is now happening mostly in the north, but as Sarah cited a minute ago, they're beginning to see actions in the center. I would predict, knowing past Israeli operations and seeing the ground in Israel, that you're going to first see the actions in the north, then potentially in the center of Gaza, and then even in the south, with that same kind of buildup of intelligence collection, then reconnaissance in force, and then a full-throated assault. You have the continuation of the air campaign, but that's based on the intelligence they already have. They're looking to get more.
And you have first-hand experience of urban warfare from your time in Iraq. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. So how does that affect the war planning and safeguarding civilian lives?
It makes it extremely difficult, Manu. What you're talking about, every commander will first of all get legal input from their local about the targets they're about to strike and how it might affect civilians. All Western and modern militaries use certainly the Geneva Convention, the law of land warfare, but Israel also puts a third level on this, and that is the proportionality and the necessity for the strike. So in other words, there may be civilians in the area where they're about to strike or where they have good intelligence, but it may also be a major terror cell. So they weigh the proportionality of the strike, how large is it, with the necessity. Is this important enough to potentially put civilians in harm's way? When you have a population like is in Gaza, 2.2 million people, that is within the sea of the operation, the fish that is Hamas swims among that sea. And what we've seen in the past, over the last several decades, is Hamas is not hesitant at all to use civilians as human shields. Not only in hostage situations, but just in targeting situations where they place their centers, their cells, their control facilities, their money laundering, all in areas where civilians act. And unfortunately, they then use the harm of civilians as part of what's called their victim doctrine to show the world that they're oppressed.
So much that's going to continue to spiral in that region, the densely part of the region. We'll watch that play out, and we're grateful for your analysis and expertise, Lieutenant General Mark Ruin. Thank you for that. Up next, domestic politics here at home. Mike Pence pulling his bid for the GOP nomination and receives a less than heartfelt farewell from his former boss.
Inside Politics Sunday, brought to you by ADT. Brilliantly safe.
Now, ADT professionally installs Google Nest products.
Cool.
You're all set. So your home is safe and smart. You can check in on your home. Arm the system, we should go. Manage your system from virtually anywhere. And get intelligent alerts like when a package has arrived. When the most trusted name in home security adds the intelligence of Google, you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
Stars Play in Abu Dhabi is the region's leading streaming service that brings you the magic of films and the excitement of sports to your favorite device, be it television or your mobile phone. With a business like ours, we need a range of talent, from technology as well as creative. We found Abu Dhabi to be our hub for accessing that type of talent.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
Here we go. Another team, another selfie.
Wait. She recycled.
Well, that's not a selfie. That's a selflessy.
Oh, that's terrible, Stacy.
Some things are good to know, like where to find the cheapest gas in town and which supermarket gives you the most bang for your buck. Something else that's good to know? If you have Medicare and Medicaid, you may be able to get more health care benefits through a Humana Medicare Advantage dual eligible special needs plan. Call now to see if there's a plan in your area and to see if you qualify. All of these plans include doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage in one convenient plan. From Humana, a company with over 60 years of experience in the healthcare industry. You'll have lots of doctors and specialists to choose from. And if you have Medicare and Medicaid, a Humana Medicare Advantage dual eligible special needs plan can give you other important benefits. All of these plans include coverage for dental, with 2 free cleanings a year, plus fillings and a yearly exam. Vision, including eye exams and a yearly allowance for eyewear. And hearing benefits, including routine hearing exams and coverage for hearing aids, plus an allowance to help pay for essentials like eligible groceries, utilities, and rent, even over-the-counter items. And whatever you don't spend gets carried over to the next month. Best of all, you'll pay nothing for covered prescriptions all year long, even the brand name ones. And $0 for routine vaccines, including shingles, at in-network retail pharmacies. So if you have Medicare and Medicaid, call now to see if there's a plan in your area that could give you extra benefits, including coverage for prescription drugs, plus dental, vision, and hearing, and more. A knowledgeable, licensed Humana sales agent will walk you through your options. And, if you're eligible, and there's a plan in your area, help you enroll over the phone. Call today, and we'll also send this free guide. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
Teeth sensitivity is so common. It immediately feels like somebody's poking directly on the nerve. I recommend Sensodyne. Sensodyne toothpaste goes inside the tooth and calms the nerve down. And my patients say, doc, it really works.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
This is not my time. So after much prayer and deliberation, I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today.
And that was Mike Pence yesterday, exiting the 2024 Republican primary field. While the former vice president's campaign never found much support, he did offer Republican voters one thing: conservatism without Donald Trump. Here's what Mike Pence said in September.
The truth is, the Republican Party did not begin on a golden escalator in 2015. Long before that day, it was forged and defended and defined as the conservative party in America.
And former President Donald Trump was hardly gracious last night about the news that his former running mate and vice president decided to bow out.
I chose him, made him vice president, but people in politics can be very disloyal. I've never seen anything like it. They asked me a question. They asked me a question. But he could have done what he could have done, right? There's no question.
Okay, let's break this all down with our great panel here. The Wall Street Journal's Molly Ball, Carl Hulse of the New York Times, Semaphor's Kadia Goba, and CNN's Eva McKend. Good morning to you all.
He could have done what he could have done. I mean, Mike Pence could have cheated for Donald Trump to make him president.
From Mike Pence's candidacy, and especially about how he tried to go after Donald Trump, distinguishing himself from the front runner. This is just a snippet of some of the ways he tried to break away from the former president.
My former running mate continues to insist that I had the right to overturn the election. President Trump was wrong then, and he's wrong now. He and his imitators in this race are backing away from American leadership. And just this weekend again, you saw him walking away from our commitment to the sanctity of human life. The only way this war would end in a day, as my former running mate says, if you let Vladimir Putin have what he wants, which frankly other candidates for the Republican nomination are advocating as well.
Well, that's not what Republican voters wanted to hear, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, him saying this is not my time is, a statement that really checks out factual, right? Watching Mike Pence's campaign really did feel like a time warp to the pre-Trump era in the Republican Party. I think you've seen a lot of the other candidates try to adapt themselves to the sort of realignment that's happened on the right and try to sound more like Trump in various ways on policy, even if they were obviously running against him and offering a different political appeal. But Pence was really either in denial or just stubborn about the sort of Reaganite ideas of the pre-Trump Republican Party, the old three-legged stool of foreign interventionism and social conservatism and fiscal conservatism, and he never bent on that, and it was clear, as he acknowledged, that it was not what Republican voters are looking for anymore. And even though, he was brought onto the ticket to sort of bring that segment of the Republican base into the Trump camp, they've moved on from him.
What do you think?
Well, I think that what we have seen across the field is this bewilderment, this frustration with Trump's dominance. I think it's not always articulated by campaign staff or among the press, right, because they want to be really careful and they don't want to appear vulnerable, but it's very clear to me. Something else that struck me is the former vice president said that he hopes that whoever ascends to the nomination appeals to people's better angels. It's not clear to me that that is what the Republican base is looking for.
Yeah, I mean, the question too here is this the beginning of a contraction of the field? Will we see more of these candidates drop out? Someone try to emerge as the true Trump alternative? Obviously, that has not happened yet. There's still lots of candidates in the race. Just look at the polling, is that we've seen month after month, week after week, Donald Trump, the dominant frontrunner in the Republican primary. The closest, Ron DeSantis, 17%. And then all the way down to Chris Christie at 2%, who was on Meet the Press this morning and was criticizing these candidates for not going after Trump more aggressively, but he's only at 2%. He's been the most aggressive Trump opponent there is. And then the money game also shows you where things are. This is cash on hand numbers at the end of the last quarter. It's been a few weeks since then, but this gives us a most recent snapshot of the money chase here. Trump at 37.5 million, and the next closest, Ron DeSantis, just a fraction of this. It seems at some point, or maybe not, maybe these candidates will continue on and continue to split up that anti-Trump vote, but do you sense that there are any movement from these lower tier candidates to get out of the race?
I mean, it's a good question. I think there are a lot of people who want to move away from the Trump Republicanism. However, it'll be interesting to see towards the general election if they just see that Trump is just a more viable candidate to win against President Biden. So, yeah, there's a group of people who want to get away
Down with
whether they coalesce around
Trump Republicanism.
It's a very different question on how we look at
Down with Trump Republicanism. Down with Trump Republicanism. Don't elect Trump, he's the worst choice by all. Don't elect Trump, he's a bad choice, yeah. Don't elect Trump, he's the epitome of truth and justice. Don't you see? Trump is the worst candidate and should not be leading. He should be failing. Fail Trump. Fail Trump. Fail Trump. Fail Trump. Fail, fail, fail. Fail, fail, fail Trump. He lies. He cheats. He tries to steal elections, you see. Then try to save himself from taking the blame. I I do tell. He's the worst liar, the worst cheater in the world. Do not elect Trump for anything ever again.
If you're a Democratic voter and you care about 2024, it matters. And the absence of any competition, any alternative, is antithetical to democracy. And I think it's important that Americans have choices at a time like this, and there's an exhaustive majority who absolutely wants change, and I'll make my case.
Look, polls do show that voters want a different candidate, but it's hard to see what his pathway is to the nomination.
It is, and he is articulating, I think, the anxieties that we've all heard from Democrats privately, but they're saying to me, this is not helpful at this time. And I asked him about this. Congressman Phillips, where were you a year ago if you really wanted to mount a credible challenge against the incumbent president? And, you know, he can't even, it's too late for Nevada. That deadline has passed. And he told me essentially that he was waiting on someone else to do it. No one else has. And so here he is. He thinks that he can make a splash in New Hampshire.
Should Biden respond to ignore it?
Well, so far the strategy has been a little bit of both. It's been mostly this, I don't even know this person, sort of posture. But they have sort of taken some pot shots behind the scenes. And, you know, look, these anxieties are real. Dean Phillips did not invent them, right? And so any momentum that he does get reflects that real angst in the Democratic base. And the president's advisors have been very defensive about this, I think, for good reason.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of concern about Biden's viability. We hear it from our sources, from Democratic leaders. He's a candidate, frontrunner.
Really quickly, when I was in Concord and the bus pulled up, people were walking past the bus and going, who is Dean Phillips?
Yeah, and that's going to be his challenge in the months ahead. Okay, coming up, he went from a background player to a starring role. How the political world is handling Speaker Mike Johnson's stunning rise.
Tonight, Anderson Cooper reports on the brutal attack on kibbutz near Oz. You can tell gunmen tried to pry this door open, and the heartbreaking stories of the survivors and the missing.
I'm devastated.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
It's easy to get lost in investment research. Introducing JP Morgan Personal Advisors. Hey, David. Connect with an advisor to create your personalized plan. Let's find the right investments for your goals.
Okay, great.
JP Morgan Wealth Management.
During fire pit season, we don't waste any time at all. When we get back together, it's like we never left.
Those members that we just heard from 18 Republicans in Biden districts, and you're leading the party's strategy. Mike Johnson has not done that yet.
So it's interesting. I think Lawler was referring to someone yelling "bye-bye" at him from the floor.
Nina Velasquez,
right? When he voted for Johnson, the money will come. You know, the donors are gonna give, but does he have the ability that McCarthy had or Pelosi? Pelosi's skill set was raising money, right? That was one of the reasons she was able to maintain power so long. I think it's going to be a real challenge for this guy. He just hasn't done that, right? He hasn't traveled the country relentlessly raising money. And I think it's going to be tough.
I think the Republican donor class, though, will be invested in wanting to see him succeed. So I don't think it'll be as much of a problem as people anticipate. I do think Democrats are going to have a harder time than they imagine right now, sort of characterizing him as this boogeyman. Part of his political skill and part of the reason he won and where he is right now is he has been able to be hardline conservative but palatable enough to different members of his conference. He doesn't tick people off.
It was interesting too, as in talking to those hardline members, they are giving him leeway, they're giving him rope to actually deal with some of those key issues, funding issues. And Johnson, just I want to point out, said this morning that they are going to move on an Israel aid package this week. He also indicated that they're not going to tie the Ukraine aid to Israel aid. That is something the White House is demanding. But will he deal with Ukraine? That's going to be an issue. How will he deal with the government shutdown issue? He wants to do a short-term spending bill until January, but that's also going to be a big fight. So many things that we'll have to see how he handles that. Next, a punk and a coward. Those are two words one House Democrat used to describe another to me. My new reporting on the deep Democratic divide over Israel next.
Skin craving next level hydration? New Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Cream. A vital boost of 9 times more hydration to boost your skin's barrier for quenched, dewy skin that's full of life. Neutrogena Hydro Boost.
Conversation we can start, but if we want to start on October 7th, we can start on October 7th. And the bottom line is, as far as the IDF is concerned, the government of the country next door invaded, killed 1,400 of their citizens, and went back, and they have a right to take out that government. That's how the IDF sees it. And I get that the Biden administration is on board. My question is the IDF going about this the right way? Do you think they're going about this the right way?
What we believe is that every hour, every day of this military operation, the IDF, the Israeli government, should be taking every possible means available to them to distinguish between terrorists who are legitimate military targets and civilians who are not. And I'm not going to react to every strike, every move that they make. What I'm going to say is that is our principle, that is our advice to them, that is what we are communicating. And we continue to do that at the highest levels. The president will speak again with the prime minister in a few hours' time today, and he will continue to reiterate the United States' position on this issue. It is clear, it is straightforward, and we believe that it is rooted in the fundamental laws of war.
So there's a lot of fear among the families that have hostages in Gaza right now that what the IDF is doing is guaranteeing that they're never going to see those hostages again. They're never going to see their loved ones again. I want you to take a listen to what Yael Alexander had to say about her son who was kidnapped by Hamas, 19-year-old Idan, an American who grew up in New Jersey, who went to volunteer for the IDF.
They told us that he's alive and he's over there at Gaza, and we're just hoping for him to come back home. I told him, I love you, be safe, be brave, and I'm still here, like, let's be in touch, and that's it. We finished the phone call, and then I text him again and again and again, and nothing came through since then.
I know that President Biden is trying to help. I know the NSC is trying to help. What's the latest on negotiations for the hostages?
Well, negotiations are ongoing, and I have to be careful about what I can share publicly on this subject because of the sensitive and delicate nature of those negotiations. But we are in almost hourly contact with regional partners and with Israel to try to get to a point where there is a deal to have the hostages released. It is difficult. It is challenging. The Hamas terrorists have not been forthcoming about allowing these hostages to go, but we believe that there can still be a pathway to get their release, and we are going to work tirelessly to make that happen. And even though we have started to see Israel move in on the ground, that has not changed our basic view that this has to remain a paramount priority, that we have to keep working at it, and those negotiations are ongoing. And I would just say, Jake, listening to that mother, I sat with President Biden as he spoke to the families of the American hostages, and it is difficult to hear the hurt and pain in their voice. It's impossible to understand what they're going through, not knowing the fate of their loved ones. And it's something that weighs on us emotionally, but we are trying to stay as focused and clear-eyed as possible on achieving the objective of bringing people home.
Meanwhile, in Gaza, as many as 600 Americans are still trapped in Gaza. They have not been evacuated. They have not been allowed to exit into Egypt. They're facing bombings from the Israelis, a worsening humanitarian crisis. Earlier this week, I talked with Aboud Okal. He's from Massachusetts. Take a listen to what he told CNN just a couple days ago.
All it takes is one missile, one airstrike to miss its target, or be too close to where you are. We're trying to stay strong, but we cannot help but feel hopeless and abandoned, given it's been 18 days and yet no concrete help from the State Department.
I know you can't just send in SEAL Team 6 to get the hostages in the Hamas tunnels because, first of all, you don't even know where they are. But this is hundreds of American citizens by the Jaffa Gate. I'm sorry, by the Rafah Gate. They're stuck too. They can't get out. 2 weeks ago I asked you about them, and you said it was Hamas who wouldn't let them out, that the Israelis were ready, the Egyptians were ready. What's going on? When can they get out?
So just as there is ongoing discussions and negotiations over the hostages, we are facing a similar situation with the American citizens and other foreign nationals who are trapped in Gaza. It is true, the Egyptians are prepared to allow American citizens and foreign nationals to come through the Rafah Gate into Egypt. The Israelis have no issue with that. Hamas has been preventing their departure and making a series of demands. I can't go through those demands in public, but that is the subject of the discussions and the negotiations that are ongoing. We are trying to work through those to get to a point where we have secured the safe passage of any American in Gaza who wants to leave. We are in contact with them on a near daily basis. We will continue to stay focused on this. This is an equal priority to us as getting the hostages out. It equally requires us to get to a point where Hamas will permit their safe passage, and we are working hard at that every day.
Meanwhile, Haaretz is reporting that an Israeli settler shot and killed a Palestinian civilian in the West Bank just yesterday. This comes after President Biden made a point of warning Netanyahu about the extremist settlers in the West Bank, saying it has to stop. These continued attacks suggest to me that Netanyahu didn't take President Biden's warning very seriously, even though President Biden elevated that warning to a public warning. Palestinians are literally being killed on the West Bank by these extremist settlers who put out leaflets warning of another Nakba. Palestinians were literally chased out of a town in the West Bank because there's no one there to protect them. Why do you think Netanyahu didn't take the warning seriously?
Well, we believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu does have a responsibility to rein in the extremist settlers on the West Bank who are, as President Biden put it a few days ago, pouring fuel on the fire. And it is totally unacceptable to have extremist settler violence against innocent people in the West Bank. That is something that we will continue to press on. This is not a one-day, one-issue event. This is an ongoing challenge. It is going to require ongoing and intensifying effort by the Israeli government. That's a point the president made publicly. It's a point we will make continuously privately, and we expect over time to see the Israeli government step up on this. And I go further, because the president used the word accountability, that there be accountability for those extremist settlers who are engaged in this kind of violence.
Good luck, Jake. This is quite a challenge you have. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Jake.
As the war in Gaza escalates, are Republican senators in line with the new House Speaker's views on U.S. aid to Israel and Ukraine? I'm going to ask one of them next. And with the Republican presidential field shrinking once again, who will emerge as the top alternative to Donald Trump? 2024 hopeful Chris Christie joins me live.
Tourists. Tourists that turn into scientists. Tourists photographing thousands of miles of remote coral reefs that can be analyzed by AI in real time. So researchers can identify which areas are at risk and help life underwater flourish.
This is the land of free country, where freedom has been woven into every stitch and every seam for over 34 years, and where the outdoors belongs to all of us.
My plaque psoriasis was so bad, I couldn't get my hair done.
My psoriasis was all over.
Then my joints started hurting. Found out it was psoriatic arthritis. Who knew they could be connected? For me, Cosentix works on both.
5 years and counting.
Did you know people with psoriasis on the scalp have a 4 times higher risk of developing psoriatic arthritis, which if left untreated can lead to permanent joint damage? Cosentix works on all of this and helps stop further joint damage.
Talk to your doctor. Find something that works for you.
Serious allergic reactions, severe skin reactions that look like eczema, and an increased risk of infections, some fatal, have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen.
Cosentix.
Still working for me.
Ask your dermatologist about Cosentix.
The stackable savings sale is going on now at Cabinets to Go. Get 25% off cabinets. Plus, save an additional 15% when you add flooring, countertops, and installation. That's up to 40% off. Don't wait. Visit us today for your free 3D design and enjoy your new dream kitchen this holiday season. Hurry! This stackable savings sale ends November 7th. Cabinets to Go. Wow for less.
Get more without paying more with TracFone, like more monthly data at the same price, plus unlimited carryover and unlimited talk and text on America's.
Good questions asked by Jake Tapper. I think that's his name. A song by Paul Beckman, Paul Rainbow song. Created October 29th, 2023. Sorry, I'm mourning because I'm still experiencing diverticulitis. Good questions asked by Jake Tapper. Good questions asked by Jake, CNN interviewer of a public official of the USA about Israel and what's happening there today. There he is, Jake Tapper. I was right, that is his name. Good questions asked by Jake Tapper that you just saw.